is 5:30 p.m. and I'm calling to order this regular meeting of the Fargo Board of Education. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I will look for approval of our agenda. And Melissa?
I move approval of the agenda with the HC addendum.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Melissa and a second from Jason. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Any opposition, same sign. Okay, and that motion passes 9-0. We do not have anyone signed up for recognition of the audience this evening, so we will move to our reports. We do not have an FEA report this evening, so I will turn it over to Dr. Steiner for your reports.
Okay. All right, first we'll do some celebrations. First, congratulations to our board members who ran for re-election and were re-elected, and congratulations to Jolene Garrity for her election to the board. So look forward to working with all of you. Announced today, Heather Sinkler is our new CTE coordinator. Not director, Denise Jonas will continue in that role. She'll be really about coordinating CTA throughout the district, and that's really about curriculum. So she's going to be in that role. Jess Magnuson, it was announced, will take over as our professional development and mentor coordinator. She'll replace Joelle Johnson. We hate to see Joelle leave, but Jess is going to do a wonderful job. She was the instructional coach at CBE recently, and I think actually has been at CBE for her entire career. Congratulations to Caden Olson. He is junior at Fargo South and was named the Gatorade Baseball Player of the Year this year. So to go on top of that state championship, also a wonderful year for him. Our Fargo South High School Auto Tech program was recertified. Really wonderful job there. And then Satya Hamidi, who is actually our president of the Fargo Youth Initiative, participated at the national level for speech and debate, finished top 60 overall. In extemporaneous speaking was 37th out of 300, and extemporary commentary, you would have to ask her what that means because I'm not sure, finished 10th out of 400. So really wonderful results. She was emailing with me today to share the results. So some good celebrations, some updates. Also a celebration, Jackie got notified, I think today, we received $3.5 million from the School Construction Loan Office from DPI. Not the full amount we wanted, but an amount that we did not expect to get. So that will help us along with our long-term process for the budget in that. So really good news. Shared about we were going to hold a reduction in force meeting to go through the policy and the rubric. Weren't able to do that. I struggled a little bit getting back from Washington, D.C. when Chicago got shut down with the weather. So we rescheduled to July 6th, so we will host that meeting that day. We also, on July 8th, will have our Portrait of a Leader meeting, so I have a variety of principals throughout the district coming to build the rubrics for that and to build kind of the continuum of services. Held our strategic plan meeting feedback. I think I shared that at our last board meeting, but we also did an exit survey to just get some results. And I just thought it was interesting when we went through these. We asked, first of all, overall, how did you feel the meeting went? And we did 5 points from it was strongly supported, it was great, it was strong, or strongly satisfied, satisfied, to neutral, to dissatisfied. 100% of them were satisfied or more. So out of the 70 some people that were there, felt really good about that. We asked, did you find value in the meeting? Because sometimes we can be satisfied and not find value. And we had 97% that were in the top two levels of seeing value for that meeting. We also asked, should we make this part of our future meetings? So Dr. Grossen decided to hold regular principal meetings. We hold combined principal meetings. 95.8% said we should make the strategic plan a regular part of those meetings, including updates and conversations. And then the last question that we started asking this year was, did the meeting today have an impact on students? And it was 97.9% that said yes, one that said they weren't sure. So just to show again that those meetings have been highly productive and seen as highly productive. Yesterday, I was able to join the NABITA risk standards training, and then they had another group today. So Dr. Saar, Tara, and a team are helping us develop a new way to go about identifying whether or not student behaviors should have a certain level of risk attached to them. And what I think it did is take away some of the subjectivity with that. I'm really excited about that process. It's going to tie really well with the MTSS work we've done in our district. But it's also going to be just another data point we'll have on kids, which means just another connection point we'll have on kids. So you'll hear more about that as we develop our processes and procedures. But again, it was probably 75 people each day in the room, all the schools represented throughout the 2 days, and a really positive feel in the room. So excited what that could look for like. And then I shared in my weekly update the PL Institute. So that was something that we ran at when I was at Northern Cass, and then I continued to participate in planning it this year. We had 80 plus people from Fargo attend. And again, when we shared overall, those 5 levels, it was 100% of the people that said they would come back next year. So again, just it was nice to see a much higher level of participation from Fargo this year. The feedback I got just anecdotally from those conversations was really strong too. So those are my updates.
Great, thank you. And then next, we're moving to its memo 129, which the administrative policy updates. That's you, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
So I'll just continue on. So kind of be new to this process this year, but we have around 250 administrative policies. So that means about every 4 years, every policy gets reviewed. So between 45 and 50, maybe a few more throughout the year. So when we start that process, each cabinet member or cabinet pair, or maybe even more, are given a policy, and they may be the ones to review that, or they may pass it on to somebody else who might be more like, if we're talking activities, Todd Olson's probably going to have some say, and Todd's going to probably go down to the building level activities directors. If there's something around food service, obviously it's going to go to Cindy. So it's about delegating and getting to the proper spots, and then it's also about us digging into those policies as well. And it's a lot of conversations around wordsmithing, but also conversations around when this policy was built, does it still meet the intent of what it was for? Is it still needed because just to have policies because we have them isn't a good reason? And so when it got said and done, some of those policies had no changes, others minor updates or more substantial, and then you have some that were rescinded. And typically if they were rescinded, and I think the very back of the memo has the ones that were rescinded, it was that it typically was involved or somewhere else in the policy, which was really the reason for most of these, or it was something that from either the last session or recent information, maybe from the federal government, that makes it not needed. And then you'll see the ones that were no changes, but ultimately you see a little identifier of what was done with those policies. If you have questions on specifics, we can answer those, whoever worked on that, but that's kind of where we're at with that. And this is informational. There's no board action needed, but and then I will also say there are some of these policies that may have an impact with FEA. So when we're doing that, a lot of times then when I do my one-to-ones with Laura, I'll give her the policy and say, can you take a look at this? And we'll have conversations around that as well. So we're trying to make sure it's not just necessarily administration that's seen it, but some of those that might be directly impacted as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question on AP 6220, student attendance and absences. We recently received a message about some concerns with those. Is that related?
Yes, I would say it is, but and I will respond to that email to the board. One of the things, and I won't go into detail on that email, but one of the things to understand is when you lump all the absences in one bucket, not all absences count like a student isn't in school. So if they're medical, they're in school. If there's a special reason, they're in school. And so, but yes, this is making sure the policy aligned with what the practice was in the buildings. And I will say, there used to be a time, many of us when we were in school, was once you went over 10 absences, you lost credit. And it didn't matter the reason or what. So 18, I think, for us is extremely generous when you think about what that looks like in terms of a school year. There are always extenuating circumstances that our building level take into account for years that you didn't plan for any of it, and that's what happens. So it does take into account some of the things that were mentioned in there. Yeah.
Are there other questions on this memo? Okay, thank you very much. And I think we are ready to move on to the next memo, which I think is going to come to us from Dr. McKenna.
Madam President, Dr. Steiner, members of the board, I have the honor, I think this is the fourth time I've actually presented this report. It was the very first thing I did when I came to FPS. So if I'm familiar with it, I'm sure you all are. So what I'd like to do is just kind of walk through a few of the items on each page so that I won't go through this in length, but with brevity. So if you start on the second page where it has the summary, if I were looking at that, I would really want to be aware of there's really two systems in which there's evaluations done in FPS, and it's based on your years of experience. So we have roughly around 1,069 teachers, and what we do in the HC department is we put them in one of those two buckets. So when you look at that, it tells you the criteria of how many observations you would have if you were in one bucket or the other. If you flip over to the next page, every year we rotate this down so you would get a chance to take a look at the overall ratings by the 23 different standards. And so when you look at, well, how could you have 1,069 teachers and you might have 5,000 or 4,000 counts? Not every standard, unless it's seen, gets a score, right? So the math isn't ever going to math. Out of the 1,069 teachers, you have 23 standards. They'll take and score those, and then if you're scored on a standard, it would go in that rubric. If you take a look at the next page, all that really says is that our evaluation system, if you were to make it super succinct, is really about prioritizing professional growth and student success. That's really all of those words say, is that it really prioritizes coaching up teachers on good instructional practices so that our outcomes that students have continue to grow. And that's our focus with this model. If you flip over to the next page, those 23 criterias that are on the following page, they're really in 4 buckets. Those are 4 big buckets. And if you were to take a look at that page, and what really stands out is that it's evidence-based. So when you're going to score a bucket or a standard, it's really, do you see it in the instruction that you watch in that classroom? And really the focus is on growing teachers to impact student learning. So if that's where I was looking at that page, the next page is all the 4 different buckets with the different criteria. And then the following page is we do this in collaboration with teaching and learning. And that's just some information from Dr. Hansen, who sometimes is with me when I do this presentation. But collectively, our 2 teams meet. We meet throughout the year to make sure that professional development is aligned with the ask of teachers, like what is it that you need? And every time we do a PD, we ask them, was this value, and what is it that you want next? So really a lot of the work that we collectively do with our teaching and learning department is so that our teachers grow in capacity, so the instruction is high leverage, high quality, hands-on, minds-on, active, engaging instruction that's relevant yet rigorous for our kiddos so that you'll see student growth in our classroom. Just like any organization, we're not where we need to be, but we're focused on getting there. And with that, I would stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions for Dr. McKenna? Greg?
So this is in Dr. Hansen's section, so we'll do our best. But she lists 2 or 3 key shifts And my questions are about the second one, student mastery drives evaluation ratings. And I was curious if you could tell me more about what it means by effectiveness being measured by student learning outcomes. It is that like, test scores are gonna, if your kids all get A's, you're an effective teacher, or,
No, not necessarily. I think when you look at this, what you do is you backwards plan. Good quality instruction really starts with what is it that you want for the outcomes that are based on, and hopefully in all cases, on the state standards. And then what you do is you implement your instruction. You're probably informally monitoring and adjusting, and then you do an assessment. A lot of times it could be informal or formal. This is really about, regardless of the assessments, are the kids mastering the curriculum that we would expect them to master so that they can successfully handle the next set of skills that are the prerequisite to the curriculum that they're going to move to next.
So how does a teacher evaluation work in that regard? Is it, the principal comes in, observes, and, there's the 23 criteria, of which student learning outcomes are not in those 23 criteria. But I kind of digress. But
yeah, I could give you kind of an idea of what that would look like. I come in to observe a class. What you probably won't see in this is there's the pre-conference work, right? So there's the conversation about what is it possibly I'm going to see in that classroom. What are the learning goals that you're going to be working on, the targets, and then you would probably see those posted somewhere in the classroom. You should. And then what will happen is if I'm an evaluator as that teacher is delivering that high quality instruction, are the students, are the instructional strategies that are being implemented leading to the outcomes of mastery. And so if the students are answering questions successfully, then there would be evidence, because this is an evidence-based evaluation system, that yes, the instruction is working to what you'd want to see in the classroom. If the students are really struggling and they cannot respond to the work that's going on in the classroom, then of course the score would be indicative of that.
so the student learning outcomes that this evaluation is based on are from that,
Things that
30-minute
yeah,
evaluation.
And I would also, if there's anybody else that would want to add to that on our team, but the focus is, am I seeing with the instruction that's being delivered? Am I at the right level, right? I mean, whatever it should be at that level of rigor, right? It's not just being engaged, it's actively engaged at the right level. Are the outcomes that the students are demonstrating, are they showing that they successfully understand those concepts that are being instructionally delivered?
Do you have further questions? Okay, is there questions from anyone else up here? Nimal?
It's not a question, but I was just trying to go off on what Greg said. Basically, I'm trying to look at it in a different perspective, but in a way that I'm trying to really understand what is our student are really going through. Because nowadays, students they just sit in a classroom, not master the information. And then also too, I try to follow what Greg said too again, is this regarding the testing score? Because if it's not, that is good, because I really want to see our student really mastering the information to make sure that, when they go outside to the real life, they can really apply those information.
Yeah, I would just say that this is not about the formal assessment that any state gives. This is just about the instructional setting that's in that classroom. And I would say that, when you look, if I were to look at some of the data and dig into it a little bit, if you look at year over year over year, I believe the intentionality of coaching up teachers has yielded better results of scoring 3 and 4. And what we also see is, as you're looking, is there a correlation there between getting an evaluation system and the outcomes that the student has overall. And I see that, you know, as we get into this, since 22, there is a greater alignment there. So I'm really proud of the progress that our teachers are making, and then the calibration is critical, that our appraisers, our evaluators are putting in the intentional time on the front side so that no matter who goes into that classroom, they know what they're looking for, and they really see the same things.
Thank you, I hope so.
Okay, any other questions or comments about this? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it. So we are now moving on to our consent agenda, and I will look for a motion. Namal?
I would like to move our consent agenda with the with HCR, or Human Capital Action at Dunham.
Okay.
I guess you really like that at Dunham in there.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Namal, and we have a second from Greg. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposition, same sign. And that motion passes 9-0. Moving to our business section, we'll start off with Memo 133, and that is going to come to us from Dr. Steiner.
Thank you. So this is Results Policy Monitoring, Strategic Initiative 5, which is Equitable Resources and Planning. I'll point out just a couple elements within and then open it up to any questions. And we do have a variety of people that have played a very significant role in the results here, so them and myself can answer. In Result 2, the transition to Infinite Campus, so M01, Mr. Westrick has really taken on our Infinite Campus implementation. He's done a wonderful job. I'm really proud of him and the Fargo Tech Group that has really been leaders in the state in making a short rollout time be successful. I got to be part of a meeting today, and we're getting closer to our live site being ready to go and our data being cleaner in that system. Worked with principals to say, where are we at? Do we feel good? And it was, 85% of them that said, we feel good about that. We've had multiple staff that were already doing the training modules, and then we did administrative assistant training last week, I believe. So getting closer. Met with a group today, not in FPS, but they were asking, like, what do we focus on? And I think that's been one of the strong things that we've done with Infinite Campus is for teachers, you could give them so much, but it's here are the things you need to do to get the year started, and let's focus on those things. So feel really good about where we're at with Infinite Campus. I know Dan Chapa is here, and he can speak much more intelligently about the compliance rate on facility cleanliness. So if you have specific questions, I would ask that you can have Dan come up, but you will see that there was a little bit of drop in Q2, but you saw significant higher rates in the others, and there is a reason for that, and I'm drawing a blank now on what that was.
Different evaluator.
There you go. Thank you. I knew there was a reason. So we had a different evaluator, and now we were looking at the system. We went back to how we had standardized it. Really good results, and I think the one thing that you look in a building and you're saying, well, is it clean enough? And to have some metrics around that is a really, really strong thing for a district. And I think also it gives your custodial staff something to aim for, and gives something hard to evaluate them on. So really strong results in that area, and that's been a long time coming with a lot of work by a lot of good people to make that happen. In Result 3, in Measure 3, number of staff indicating they're moderately satisfied or extremely satisfied with their current role. This comes from the Vital Network survey. The question is, overall, I'm satisfied with my current job. You will see we put in progress. We didn't get to 85%. It was 84.6%. The average score was 5.62, which was a 1.9% increase, and that was with a considerable amount more people taking the survey, which we've talked about. I know Dr. McKenna shared on that. We saw actual upticks in our results, but that doesn't typically happen when we survey more. And also 5.62, Vital will tell you anything over 5.5 is like really strong practice. So I feel like, again, we're in a good spot. We didn't hit the 85%, but we're really close in that area. Also, the 80% or higher success rate in filling open classified positions within 30 days. We're at 72%, so not necessarily at our 80% value. We had a long talk as Dr. McKenna and I and Anne-Marie were going through this, and we said, I think actually that's one of the new metrics in our strategic plan is the retention rate, which I'm not sure if we may be able to get 95% of the people hired in 30 days, and if they all leave or aren't effective, I'm not sure that that metric necessarily is telling us about quality. It's telling us something about quantity. So I do like that, and our new metric is there. And when we introduce the new strategic plan, we'll share some promising results from that part. And then returning the next year, shared many times this year, we are at a 92.6% rate in terms of our certified staff or certified staff, and then actually went up about 2% for our non-certified staff, from 82 to 84% there. So I can answer questions, or we can get the person to answer questions on things you reviewed. Just let me know how you want to go about that.
Okay, great. Do we have questions or a motion? Yeah. Greg, are you ready? Or who's raising their hand? Okay. It's okay. Greg, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, so my first question is result one, measure one, specifically not the cash flow part, but the part about the grants. We didn't really hit the target or really even move much on that, but I'm wondering if someone could tell me why it's important to move that needle by one day and why it would rise to the level of our strategic plan.
It was intended just to be a method of improvement in cash flow, so the quicker we can get reimbursed from the state for the dollars that we have given out, or spent through grants, it would improve that cash flow and hopefully, increase that interest income that we can earn.
So let's be honest, how much of that is in your control?
Honestly, not a lot.
Okay. And so I think what Greg is asking is, should we be measuring something that's not in our control? Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was shaking my head because I was like, no, we should not be measuring that.
I live that world. It's what it is.
And I will say, the credit to the Department of Public Instruction, they have made improvements in their grant-making abilities and processes as well. That has gotten better, but I don't know that this is a metric that is telling us we're successful or not. So I would agree.
Okay, any other questions or comments or a motion? Robin?
I would like a motion to accept the reasonable progress has been made in RSI 5 for the 25-26 school year.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion from Robin and a second from Ally. Is there any more discussion? Melissa?
Yeah, I just had one comment that I know our workload analysis for special education is relatively new, so I was really impressed that we were already hitting metrics. So I just wanted to commend all those that were involved in that efforts because I thought that was impressive.
Yeah, and I think I shared in my update when I was in DC for the meetings with EAB, that tool was used as a standard that other districts throughout the country should adopt to try to make more informed decisions about staffing. So it was, they were lifting that up, so they were saying how impressive it was too. I would agree.
Greg?
Yeah, for the it's result 2, measure 1 about Infinite Campus. I'm curious, the 85%, was that did we get surveys completed by all principals?
That's actually why I left it at over 85%. We did it in person. A couple of principals weren't there. It actually would have been 100%. I did encourage everyone afterwards, contact me directly if you have any lingering concerns.
Thank you, Bill. I did note it was odd that that number was not specific, so thank you.
Okay, other questions or comments? Greg?
So I'm looking at result 3, measure 3, the staff satisfaction. I'm wondering, is there any insights that we've looked for within the employee groups? Like, our custodians 97% satisfied, but paras are 50%, something like that.
So I'll have Jeff come up because you're going to find that it surveys basically 3 groups, so he can explain that. And it's actually something Jeff and I are talking about tomorrow at our one-to-one about how do we gather some feedback from some of our other groups that haven't been surveyed.
Yeah, I think that the data, although everything increased, really misses some of our employee groups that we really need to get the pulse on, and that is the other groups. The vital data, although it initially started with a broad net for all of the district, we had to figure out how to be real intentional and not overpromise and underdeliver with the work. So the biggest group we focused on initially was the teachers. And so the vital data, where there was growth in every single indicator that are major components, we don't have the data on our operations group. And it's one of the things that Lori and I, and now Dr. Steiner and I will talk with Tony when he gets on board, is how are we going to put surveys into our other groups to see where we're at, what are they saying, and then what can we do to support that.
Am I right, Dr. McKenna, right now it surveys teachers, there's an administrator survey, and then paras?
A campus-based staff are within this, yes.
There you go,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. So, but we don't, the other groups that we don't have are like our facilities, our child nutrition, all key staff. We just had to figure out how do we first start with our campus-based staff with the capacity that we had, and that's where we're at. And we feel like the traction that we've made allows us to continue to leverage this work, but then to start really being intentional about supporting the other groups. Even though we didn't have the survey, we did have exit data and, talking to staff. So we did, put onboarding systems in place for them from the very first survey. Now everybody has to onboard once before they can even show up. We didn't have them do that. So that first data that we did collect from those other groups did help us, but now we need to reassess where we're at with that.
Robin?
Quick follow-up. So you're phasing in different employee groups. When did we start the Vital Network engaging with that?
Yeah, so the Vital Network, this is data set number 3. We started towards the middle of 1 year, sort of like as a concept, and that's the survey where we sent out to every single person in the district, everything. Also had an open-ended component to it, and then we started sharing with people, this is what we've heard, and this is what we're going to do. And then from that, we've had survey number 3, and so we're constantly monitoring, assessing, and adjusting. And then we added this year our leadership, our campus leadership, as a survey component to that group, and then internally we'll work with operations teams.
So when you say survey number 3, is that 3 years, or do you do
3
more?
years.
Okay,
3
thank you.
years, yeah.
That's all I needed to know.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, Ally?
Yeah, follow up on this question specifically. Where you have ones that are disagreeing or greatly disagree, is there a double-click layer, if you will, that allows them to add some like free text feedback as to why they're disagreeing with this, or why they're not satisfied?
Yeah,
Any
so
key themes that have come out of that?
Yeah, so when you look at the survey itself, towards the end, there are several open-ended questions that we dig into and try to find buckets of similarities. And from those buckets of similarities, and what is it that we really want to focus on, and what with the way the system works now is we give the survey in the fall, and then we work with the building principals on their data, because it's their campus data, and we share with them that this isn't your problem to solve. And so we coach them and work side by side and model that they have a group of leaders at their campus that looks at the data, and then they work with their staff to say, okay, if here's the problem, what are solutions? And the best solutions come from the people in the work. And so that's why I feel like we've made the greatest growth, is because you don't have a leader determining what actions are going to be put in place. They're facilitating the work with their teams. So, Allie, great question. They look at all of that information, and then each campus then, because it's really campus-based improvement, starts putting practices into place. Then the mid-year checkup is, are you aware of like this process that's going on? And then the third is, have you started, because you're not going to see immediate results, right? It takes time to put systems in place that yield results. So then the third end of year checkup is kind of wrapping things up, and have you been involved in this process? Are you seeing, this implemented? Are you having the opportunity to be part of, the solution process?
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, Anne-Marie, I think we're ready for the roll call.
Ollenberger,
Yes.
Berkland,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Christian Seminier.
Yes, and that motion passes 9-0. All right, next we are moving to Memo 134, the preliminary budget approval, and I will turn to our planning chair, Greg Clark, for that.
Thank you. So from a high level, I think there's kind of 3 points that I want to make about this preliminary budget. The first is, this is very preliminary. We will see this budget at least 2 more times as a full board before we actually have it sent off to the county to get certified for our mills in September. So this is very preliminary, so keep that in mind. Jackie has emphasized to me that these numbers will change. They always do, but the closer we get to the final approval, the more solid they'll be. Another thing to point out is the mills that we're levying. We're not changing really anything with our mills. Is this the first year where we're officially kind of splitting out between miscellaneous and the tuition mills, or did we start with
The current year is, and so next year will be our second year
Okay,
of that.
yeah. So, really, our mills are not changing. And the other thing I wanted to draw attention to is that when it comes to our expenditures, any large changes you see are almost certainly the result of the efforts that were made by a lot of people to make sure that we had a balanced budget this year, as opposed to the deficit that the previous fiscal year had. So, when we see, lines like reductions of 1.3 million or, more than $250,000, that's really going to be, because of balancing the budget. And I think a couple areas where there's large increases are really the result of us kicking the can down the road for many years on stuff like, what was instruments? Was that one of the big ones that's like, well, we've been putting that off for way too long, and, you know, we can't continue to do that. And then I'll see if Jackie or Corey want to expand on any of that.
We do a lot of pointing back and forth to see. I guess I would open it up to questions. We are presenting that balanced budget, no change in mills. Greg, I will just say the full board will see it one more time before we go final in September with that for approval, and we will continue to adjust as we go here for the next months. We need to get final numbers for what we're allowed for a property tax valuation increase, as well as what our final state aid will be, which pretty soon we should be able to get a good grip on that. The budget is presented currently with a 4% increase in valuations. We left enrollment stagnant to calculate what our state aid would be. And of course, those are our two big buckets. And as far as expenditures go, Greg had it correct. You will see some large increases in equipment and technology equipment. We have put off many things for quite some time, including some theater work that needs to get done, FIED equipment, music equipment, some facilities equipment, those types of things that we currently have built in, and we will continue to tweak as we go forward to see what, as we finalize staffing, what will be remaining to kind of start getting on track and getting back on that rotation for some of those expenditures. So Dr. Steiner, otherwise we'll open up to questions. Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Do you want a motion on the floor before? Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to move that we approve the preliminary fiscal year 26-27 budgets for the general fund, building fund, special assessments fund, special levy fund, debt service fund, and nutritional services fund.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Greg and a second from, did you second it?
I did, but I think Ally did as well.
Oh, okay, and a second from Ally. Greg and Ally. Any other questions or comments? Robin?
A couple observations. I did attend the planning committee meetings. Thank you for allowing me to do that. I'm not a member of the committee, but it's so important for me to be there for legislative reasons. Based upon what I learned in that planning committee, I will enthusiastically support this mission. This ending fund balance is 16%, which is going up just a little bit. And I had mentioned that before. I would like to see us a little bit higher, but we're heading in the right direction. This is a 1.5% increase over last year as far as profit. I think that's a good sweet spot to be. My one question is, I was talking with another taxing entity, and that person mentioned that the state's legislatively deadline, I'm not going to say this right, the deadline's legislatively imposed by the legislature, the budget deadline. Did the deadline change, the preliminary and the final?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, thank you, because I kind of was not aware of that either. So, okay, that answers my question. Thank you to the planning committee on such good work.
Okay, other questions or comments? Are we ready? Okay, go ahead, Anne Marie. Berglund?
Yes.
Clark?
Yes.
Day.
Yes.
Gullickson.
Yes.
Jason Nelson.
Yes.
Kristen Nelson.
Yes.
Robin Nelson.
Yes.
Wallenberger? Yes.
Christensen Meineer.
Yes, and that motion passes 9-0. Okay, next we are going to the first reading of the strategic plan, Memo 135, and that will come to us from Dr. Steiner.
Thank you. Dr. McKenna mentioned this a little bit, so I think it actually applies here too. One of the strategies that you utilize when you're developing a unit of study is backwards design, which means you start with the end in mind. You got to know where you're aiming for kids to go, for an organization to go, before you start doing the other work. So that's really what today is. you don't have a full narrative and document in front of you. You remember when we did some work sessions in the fall, we looked at a variety of different things. You gave me some feedback. One of the things we said is brevity, 4 to 5 pages potentially, something that would be consumed by others, something that people would want to look at, something that we could easily report out on and people could understand. So you don't have all the narratives, and at the bottom of that memo, you'll see what the final version of the plan will be. But I think the thing I want to emphasize is the metrics are what you should hold myself accountable to. These are the things that we're saying as a district. If we're doing our finances correctly, if we're doing teaching and learning correctly, these are the outcomes, these are the areas that we should see improvement in. And so I want to take you through the scorecard. This is not the first time that you've seen this or at least heard about this. I think I've been mentioning it probably since we did our first meeting with Dr. Slavic from EAB quite a while ago. You can think of the titles as kind of the strategic initiatives if we want to think back to the other terms. So academic excellence is one of those. And on there, a couple different things you'll see. So you'll see students meeting grade level, ELA and math. What you won't see in there is you might say, well, what about K1 and 2 and 11 and 12? We still have ways to assess that, but that's the operational part of the plan. So we won't report out on those, but what we should be able to say is, hey, if third graders aren't achieving at a certain level, what are we seeing at K1 and 2 where we need to make adjustments in either curriculum, resources, teaching and learning. You will see that will come in the fall. We got word from the Department of Public Instruction that there was some norming issues with the NDA plus assessment. And because of that, our results are going to be later than we thought, which means also our final plans that go into insights will be later. So our accountability plans will be later. They think that it could be good for some results and not good for others. But they have some glitches, and if you want to know more and you're interested, I can certainly share the information that they shared with us. So again, we won't have that final data for the fall for us to say this is what our target is for the next year, but I think we can all safely assume we want to see more kids reading at grade level and more kids doing math at grade level. That's just any educational organization wants to see more of that. The district prioritized standards, you'll see we're establishing a new baseline. Stephen has now completed that. I just got that, I think, late last night. So we actually have that data now, and we'll be able to put that together. You'll notice we're focusing on ELA and math. It is not that we don't think social studies or science are important or any of our other electives. It's just when you report out by facts, you're reporting out 10 different courses, where ELA and math is a little bit more narrow. So that's why we chose that. Percent of students graduating in 4 years, percent of students graduating choice ready. We thought it was logical that we would have those in there because, again, it's part of our accountability set up with the state. I think we found a glitch in the reporting system that many of the big districts found. So we have a reporting that goes through what we put in PowerSchool, and then reporting that also goes through STARS. What we found is when kids were transferring out of the district, we would put that into PowerSchool, we would put it into STARS, and for some reason, it didn't hold in STARS. So those kids that transferred out went in as dropouts. And so you might come back next year, and I'm saying this very honestly, and say, oh my gosh, the numbers went up for graduation dramatically, and I would love to say I'll take credit for all that. That would not be correct. Our buildings are doing great work around that, but we expect those numbers are going to go higher. We saw that in almost every big district who saw that same glitch. We had our principals put it on their calendars to go back into the system and make sure it's correct. So you'll see that. We put a work-based learning part in there mainly because we thought that was really important, and we think if we put that in there, it means we'll continue to seek out opportunities for students to have opportunities outside the building for internships, apprenticeships, and job shadows. So that's kind of what we put under academic excellence. Obviously, there's lots of operational parts that go towards making that happen. Some of the reports you heard about the evaluation system and teaching and learning, linked to that. Under student safety, health, and well-being, attending more than 90% of the school days. I think, when you asked Robin about that question, right now we have 75% of our 11,000 plus kids that are attending 90% or more of the time. It was, again, the one thing besides the mill levy that every building identified as an area of need that's critical. So we're going to continue to do the work. You saw really nice gains from a really conservative effort in a lot of buildings this year. I mean, almost 6% growth, or it was 6.5%. That's fantastic. I mean, just think about the amount of days that means kids were in school more. But still work to do on that, a lot of work to do on that. The feeling they belong, that's our school climate survey. Our numbers are good. We want to continue. At some point, we'll get to a point where it's going to be about maintaining and not growing, because there will be a point where that's just not going to be possible. Percentage of students having less than 2 major behavioral incidents in a school year. We should be proud of this data. 94.4% of our kids, you see some of the national narrative around student behavior, and what we're finding is it's pretty good in our district. And I think you can look at catalysts, you can look at some of the work we've done with hiring social workers, and SWIFTs, and all these other supports that the district is committed to that have helped with that. And then participant and relevant learning experiences. If you remember, I told you we would be giving a survey called the LEAPS. We did that at the end of the year. I just met with them yesterday to finalize. So right now, in 6 through 12, about 36% of our kids are saying they're seeing what they're learning is relevant. Right on track with 55,000 other students that took the new survey this year. But I also don't think on track is what we're ever going for. So we're going to start working with the principals on what are actionable steps that we can do to start to move that. We have some other data that we didn't put in the plan, but that will help move that needle and give us some more actionable steps. Your third initiative is in exemplary staffing. So this is what Dr. McKenna was talking about. So your vital network data is going to fill that. That will be under the operational side. 92.6% that returned, and then right now we're at about 84% of non-certified staff that started the year and finished it. So really strong, but always room for growth. And how do we grow the retention one for the non-certified is we start asking some questions and start surveying them and getting some specific feedback to do that. So again, lots of pieces that go under making that, but these ultimately should be the metrics we hope that you'll be asking us some questions on if we start seeing those dip, but also if they're growing, what are we doing to continue this work? So the next area is community engagement and support. We really look to the foundation for this one, and we're looking really with those businesses that have identified schools as partners. This looks very different in a lot of buildings and what the buildings want and what the businesses want, but also reaching out for them to understand the partnership must go 2 ways. What are you going to get from us if we partner with you, as well as what will we get with you from you? And that isn't always just monetary. That can be mentors. Sometimes you might have a mentor. I was at robotics at Bennett one day, and I saw all these mentors in there working. There were some of them that said, this is the best thing that I do all year long. And I kept thinking to myself, I bet there's people that are staying at their job just so they can get this opportunity. And I thought that's what they're getting from us. So when we start these partnerships, I want us to be able to say, what are we getting? What are you getting? And can we somehow quantify that? Formal district partnerships, I asked Jackie to do some work. We have a lot of partnerships where we're getting a bigger return on investment than what we would if we went to the market. And I'll use an example, and it's certainly not, even though now I can tell that's Tiffany there from Sanford. I couldn't when they turned the lights on right away. We have a partnership for athletic training. I can guarantee if that partnership was excluded and we had to go out to the market for that, that's not the cost that we would be paying for athletic trainers. We consider that a partnership. We think they are also getting something from that. So we'll probably do some more refining on that one because we kind of had to pull a few different things, but that's it. And then we surveyed families at the end of the year who would recommend their school. We had 85.9%. Now part of that next step will be, what does that mean? So we did break it down. Amory got me that today. We broke it down by building. And it'll be figuring out, like, without adding 20 questions to the survey, can we ask why? And get some people to answer that, so we don't take away things that are why they do it, but also why not. And so that's kind of the next step with that. And then the last one is operational excellence. I can tell you just from start to now, this one does not look anything what it did in our first iteration. The first iteration had so many things that when we kept looking at, we kept saying, this is very operational. And what we got down to was, as a board, what should you be asking us? And if we come to you without a balanced budget, you should be able to ask us why that is and why we didn't prioritize or why we couldn't get ourselves to balance. And then the other one, which is operational excellence, and I mentioned it, is the high reliability schools model, which we are implementing next year. And it's been fun because we already have buildings that are like, we're ready to certify. And I'm like, well, we probably need to get into year one before we're necessarily ready to certify. But we do have money put into our budget to go through that process. And eventually we'll hopefully move HRS to our accreditation model throughout the state, which is something that we're working with DPI in West Fargo, Bismarck, Grand Forks on making happen. So it does not look, I don't think, like a traditional strategic plan that would be in front of you right now. But what I'm asking is that you would give us approval to say, these are the metrics as a board you would hold myself accountable for. Our next steps, and we're working through this in cabinet tomorrow. They've all got the email in their inbox that each of them were attached one of the areas as their area of focus. Some of them we have 2 attached to, so you can figure out operational excellence. Jackie's going to be the one that's going to be leading that charge along with me, because I'll lead the HRS part. Our job now is, if you approve tonight, is to go out and gather the data from things in the front of the memo. So when you look at the bottom, you see some bulleted items. You'll see critical, important, desirable objectives for the district and individual buildings. I've told you the district. It is attendance, it is the mill levy. But the buildings have all identified that. We will gather that up in an executive summary, so you can have that. Also, so we can use that as a piece for collaboration. They will gather that. They're going to put summaries together, so then you can see kind of the statement of work. This is what we're doing this year, which will basically be summarizing our operational plan. So each cabinet member will have an area. Each cabinet meeting will report out on those areas, and they'll be responsible to provide us updates with that. I think also in here we gave you when we would evaluate these, and we tried to put them around when we knew we'd have the data from the state or when we'd have the data locally. So it's, like I said, I know it's not probably the traditional, but we went about this very differently than we did talk about it at our last strategic planning meeting, that we could have very well went through probably it would have been about a 40-hour process. I think where we landed is probably identical to where we would have landed when we got people together. We have academics, we've got well-being for kids, we've got financial sustainability, and we have partnerships. And I think those are all things that great school districts do. Now we need to identify what it means to be great for Fargo with these things. So that's enough talking for me. I can answer questions. I know we have cabinet members here who can answer questions as well.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, this is a discussion. We don't have an action.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
First reading.
First reading.
It's
Sorry,
first reading.
Sorry,
It's okay.
that's what I meant.
That's
Sorry, I
totally
didn't mean
fine.
that.
I
Yeah.
just didn't want anybody to start making motions.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Did you have a question or comment?
Thank you.
And then I'll go to you next, Ally.
Comment and question. This is a prime example of interpreting and implementing the board's wishes. This is not the traditional strategic plan. I'm trying to trying to figure out how these are differ from results, but based on, I've still got a process. But I like the measurables there. In the community partnerships, are those the number of MOUs that are in place? How do you define a formal district partnership?
We looked at MOUs, we looked at contracts. Again, we really asked Jackie and her team to look and say, where are we getting more benefit than we would if we went, and I say to market, And that's where we really looked at. Todd Olson had a bunch of these, like BSN, which is our athletic uniform provider, that were getting something in addition to that. So some of those, Todd had a bunch of them that linked well.
Like in-kinds discounts?
Some
Or
were,
vendors.
we have a lot of also partnerships, right, just with parks and things like that as well. So we have in our contract management system, that's where I got the gist of the information. As Dr. Steiner said, we'll kind of continue to finesse that and try to see what we're missing as well, because I think we still are doing a lot of things that we maybe haven't formalized into writing, and we will probably look to try to do that.
Thank you. I think my opinion is you're heading in the right direction, but I still have to settle this in my old-fashioned strat plan brain.
Okay, Ally?
My biggest piece of feedback is that I love that every single thing that you have on here is a measurable. You have why this matters. I think that just really relates well with a lay person looking at this and just being like, oh, okay, that's why their district is doing this. Like if this is on our website, right, and a parent wants to look at this, they understand the why behind it, and I think that's so very important. A couple questions, if you will. The academic excellence, is that, I know obviously you had explained October for this upcoming year due to the data issues. Is that kind of the always? To me, it just kind of seems like we're going to be in school for like 2 months before we look at things. October just seems a little off in times in my brain.
We're hopeful that will be sooner.
Okay.
The new NDA Plus came 2 years ago. So for them to norm it, it took into this school year.
Right.
Now with the glitch, it's going to take a little bit. Typically, we will get the results right after we test. Like we'll have the results before the school year ends. But the issue is the state finalizing that, pulling and cleaning the data. I would expect we will have that before it was early August. So I think we'll have it before if we don't start getting it before the school year, we may need to look at adjusting and using some of the raw data and less of the finalized state data. Because it is late for us to make any adjustments, even though every building has a plan around literacy and math.
Absolutely.
But I hate not knowing what our percent is that we're going after, because that's, again, it's like moving the target when I tell buildings, hey, you need to get a certain percent higher, but I won't know till October.
Exactly. That's kind of where my head was around. I was like, October just seemed really late. And then the only other piece that I have is specifically underneath the community engagement piece, just a thought, if you will, of what about parent-teacher associations or organizations about how many schools actually have active PTAs, PTOs? That kind of seems, obviously you've got the family piece covered on what our families recommend their school, but I also think about the engagement piece, and having parents involved in education is so very important.
Yeah, so that was on our original, and we had a lot of conversations around that. One of the reasons that we moved away from it is our secondary schools often don't have that. And then we were worried about, there are some buildings that may not have an active PTA just because they don't have the capacity to have that. So we took it off the list. We actually had one point of like, how many people come to conferences? How many people come to the STEAM events? And we just kept coming back to, we were worried that that was kind of saying a have and have not. Because if a parent doesn't come in, it doesn't mean that. I always said, I told parents, you might never come into our building, but if you get your kid to school 95% of the time, I actually think you're very engaged in the school. So we went away from, like, if I show up or if I have this organization, that means you're engaged. So that we started there, but we slowly moved away from it. But I think one of the ways for people to say they recommend their school in the operational plan is PTAs and PTOs. So I don't think we're going to measure it, but we will want to continue to lift that up.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, Melissa?
Yeah, I first want to say that I think this is a vast improvement, and just kind of following up on Ally's comment, sometimes I think if we have too granular of a result we want, sometimes we kind of get caught up in weeds and are stopping looking at the entire forest. So I really like what is measured, and again, like with the explanation, I think that's fantastic too, and I love the direction this is going. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this. For the academic success metrics for the first 5, we're waiting for more data and norming before we can set a target. Is that's...
Yeah, so
Okay.
not the first, sorry, the third one is local. We just got that this week, so we will actually have that data. I'll have it entered by the end of this week, and I'll be able to share that out with you. Choice ready, we probably will have sooner than the fall, because that should come. We should have that data, especially the reports are due on June 30th. And then the graduation, that will probably be sooner. The NDA Plus will not probably be till the fall. So I would think in future years, we would hope by August we'll have that data.
Okay. Greg, do you have a question or comment?
Just to build on that point, I think at some point, right, it gets, to what you said earlier, Dr. Steiner, like, we can't just say, oh yeah, in October, we're finally going to give you what your goals are. I think in place of that, like, I would, instead of seeing I don't want to wait as a board to approve a plan just because we're waiting on like data from the state. I would say like a worst case scenario might just be like a target is 2% increase from prior year, something like that, instead of an exact number. If we don't have that data, instead of waiting, I'd rather see that than blank.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Okay, other questions or comments? Greg?
Two questions or things to bring up. So for the metric on student attendance, I think I'll lead by just saying I think our target is not what it should be. This is going to be our critical objective, right, after the mill levy. So the majority of the coming school year, this is going to be the critical objective. When I think critical objective, I don't think 2.2% increase, right? Because our spring 26, our most recent data is 81.78%. And I don't think a critical objective should just be 2.2% higher than that. And I think we have rightly and correctly identified this as our critical objective, but I think we need to aim higher.
Can I? I think that sustainable and incremental growth and improvement is more valuable than putting a totally unattainable percent. That's it. I don't think that's the board's critical objective. That might be yours, but and it's probably just a semantics thing, but I would say we need to have attainable goals and sustainable goals. And I don't want that to get lost by setting the goals too high. That's just my life philosophy, if you will.
Okay, other questions or comments? Yes, Greg?
And one more. So this goes actually to a wonderful point that I'm glad Robin brought up at for our last business item about finances. So in our last bucket, the operational excellence, fiscal responsibility, having our operating surplus / deficit as a percentage of expenditures target at 0%, I think is not where I'd want to see it. I'd like to see that be something where we actually continue to reduce that I'm not sure if I'm saying I want to see it be a negative 0.5%, because I think we need to reduce spending because as Robin pointed out, we're at about 16% for our fund balance, and that is not give us much wiggle room for our goal of 15%. And by having a balanced budget where our expenditures continue to increase will necessarily result in that percentage of fund balance being reduced. So I think our target should be to increase our fund balance as a percent of expenditures to give us more of that buffer. And I think per our conversations 2 weeks ago, I think I would recommend that we make that budget reductions targeted towards areas that we know Fargo is kind of an outlier on per pupil spending, which would be our administrative costs and or transportation costs.
Okay,
Because I don't know if anyone else noticed it in our preliminary budget, but we are reducing our spending on teachers, but our administrative spending is actually increasing year over year.
okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so let's move on from this, since this was just a discussion. I think you've got lots of ideas to take back and discuss now with Cabinet. All right, and then let's move along to item D. This is memo 136. And Dr. Steiner, can you introduce this to us?
Yes, I can. So this memo is about a partnership with Sanford. To start this school year, Dr. McKenna and I met with Tiffany Lawrence and her team at Sanford, and we broached the idea of the potential of having a clinic on one of our sites. Just to be clear, we some people will say, well, like West Fargo did, and they said, nope, this is a different model. West Fargo did something in terms of their health plan. We felt that was too far down the road for something that we needed to be more immediate. We knew that we had some space within the district in certain buildings that this could become a reality sooner than later. And then along with that, we also knew that in certain buildings we had really strong health science programs that we could potentially take from just being really, really wonderful to like world class and the very best in the country. Both Dr. McKenna and I walked out of that meeting and we said it was a little bit like hitting the easy button, because it was probably 3 minutes into it and they're like, yeah, let's figure this out and how can we do it? And so we have had multiple meetings over the course of this year, and it went from Dr. McKenna and I, Jackie and Tara have been involved in that. Our goal would be that we would put it at Fargo South. Christy Brandt has been involved in this conversation, has shared with the staff. We've went through walkthroughs of the potential space, timelines, and we've even drafted up ideas for what a lease could look like. Ultimately, what it would be is enhance, and you can see the points on there, access for our employees with priority appointment availability. So the way we talked about it is if you wanted to get in, you're going to get in, and you're not looking at the long wait that you might have from a walk-in clinic situation. It's convenience for our families seeking it during the workday. It would serve the community. So this is another example of an area I think that they were looking for to serve. And it also is another example of a great partnership that we can give back to the community, but also get something in return. It's, I think, a really good example of a public-private partnership and something that I'm really passionate about and that I want us to continue to explore in other areas. If you have a clinic here and you're really thoughtful about how you do that and partner, you can create a really world-class educational experience for kids. And one of the things that we talked about in our last meeting was, could we get a team from Sanford and a team from FPS that could find a couple places in the country that are looked at as kind of the model for these type of programming, and then can we go after that and collectively plan that? And that conversation was, yep, let's identify the team members. If the board moves this forward, we'll get working on that over the next year. We will get some revenue through the lease. We get fair market value at that. Ultimately, the costs that right now we've identified, we believe will be about $200,000 in costs. There's a couple things that we know we would have to do. One is the replacement of an air handler unit that honestly was going to be on our queue pretty soon. That can just get done sooner. And then the others, because there would be more requirements for sewer, because there'd be more sinks or bathrooms, we would need to expand the line. So we think that's about a $200,000 cost for all of that. That would be our cost. All the renovation within and inside the building would be Sanford's. And then, again, we would partner. So we talk through, okay, what happens if there's a fire drill? Or what happens if there's a lockdown? So we talk through our protocols and what that would be and how we would make sure our intercom would be working. They would do the exact same. We would be responsible for snow removal. I mean, so we have like the really good bones of a plan. And we're really, I think, and Tiffany can certainly come up and speak to this if she would choose. We have a really, really unique opportunity here. Something that's going to serve our families and our staff exceptionally well, and I think can become what we believe will be a model partnership for going forward for not just with Sanford, but then eventually other organizations. But they've been a partner of this district for a long time and have provided a lot of resources to the district. This seems like the next logical step for us. So I'll take questions, and if I can't answer them, I have Dr. McKenna here who's been in the conversations and has seen this done in other places, and then I have Tiffany and her team here too, who I think would be willing to answer any questions as well.
Okay, great. Did you want to, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just needed to declare a conflict. I won't be voting on this today.
Okay, thank you. Robin?
I'd like to make a motion to approve administration's request to proceed with the development of an on-site health clinic at South High School in partnership with Sanford Health, including negotiation of a lease agreement and preparation of bid documents for the required building infrastructure improvements.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion from Robin and a second from Ally. Is that right? Okay, any other questions or comments? Greg?
Yeah, I just want to add for other board members, this topic has come to planning, I think at least twice, maybe 3 times now throughout the year. And every single, starting from like, this is an idea. Should we maybe start to look at it? And, more details would come. And every single time it's come to planning, we've said, yes, this sounds awesome. Keep going. Little checkpoints along the way. And, I'm excited that we've reached a point where we can say, all right, we need to formally take action to say, yes, this sounds awesome. Keep going. So I'm excited for this.
Okay, Robin?
Comment. I would also say I was recently attended one of TIF's presentations to the community, and their initiatives are also partnering with educating to create their future workforce. So this all blends together, and it is reciprocal with Sanford and the school district and our student success. It's a big deal.
Ally?
Yes, to Greg's point, we did talk about this in planning, and the 2 things that I took away is that this will serve not only our teachers being able to have different appointment times, but the educational opportunities that's going to be for our kids, I think, is the most beneficial thing that I see coming out of this, and I'm really excited about it.
Great. Any other discussion, comments, questions? Okay, I think we're ready, Anne Marie.
Clark.
Yes.
Day.
Yes.
Gullickson.
Yes. Oh, yours quit. Yeah. Just say it loud.
Yes. Kristen Nelson.
Yes.
Robin Nelson.
Yes.
Olenberger.
Yes.
Berkland.
Oh, yes.
Christensen Minear.
Yes. Motion passes 8-0. Okay, moving on to memo 1. Thank you, Sanford, for making that happen. We're very excited about it. Okay, moving on to memo 137. This comes through governance, and I will be introducing it. GP7 was monitored for compliance at the April 14th board meeting, and there were some different suggestions related to our communication engagement and advocacy committee. So at governance, we talked through some options and basically came to the conclusion that CEA doesn't necessarily progress the work of the board much. And so what I'm suggesting here is that we move one item from planning committee to governance, and that is working with administration and maintaining a strategic plan. And then also from CEA, we would move item B1, which is create and analyze communications, engagement, and advocacy opportunities with stakeholders such as students, staff, parents, and community members, also to governance. We would sunset CEA, so we would not have that as a committee for next year. And then also keeping in mind that if there are items that come up that normally would sit with CEA, we can always create an ad hoc committee to take that on. In my 4 years on the board, I have noticed that the CEA committee doesn't seem to have as much content, I guess I would say. Oftentimes that meetings are canceled because they don't, a lack of agenda items. And so it seems like to streamline the work and to really use our resources in a better way, we can find a way to function without that committee. So I will take questions, comments, or a recommendation. Sure, go right ahead.
As the chair, now probably former chair, I support this because I don't want the public to think we're trying to hide anything. These functions and these topics that CEA would normally be charged with are already covered in other areas, and so we've got some overlap, and I don't think any of us loves to meet just to call a meeting. These things are still being cared for, and like we said, we can pull together an ad hoc committee if we wish to. So just as the chair or former chair, I do support this.
Other questions or comments? Jason?
I'll just make a motion that the board approve changes to GP7 as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Jason and a second from Namal. Any other discussion or questions on this item? No? Okay, Anne Marie.
Day.
Yes.
Gullickson.
Yes.
Jason Nelson.
Yes.
Kristen Nelson.
Yes.
Robin Nelson.
Yes.
Olenberger.
Yes.
Berglund.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Christensen Meinier.
Yes, and that motion passes 9-0. Okay, we are moving along to our board reports now, and the first one on here is something that I have the honor of presenting or sharing to show our appreciation to our retiring board member, Namal Day, and I have a little statement that I would like to read for you. Namal, thank you for your dedicated service to the Fargo Board of Education and our district over the last 4 years. You won a seat on the board in the 2022 election in a field of 15 candidates and made history as the first Black person elected to any public office in Fargo. Throughout your term, you have brought an important perspective to board discussions and have consistently championed diversity, equity, and inclusion for all students. And I do remember you saying that your last name is even DEI, so that seems like a great fit for you. You have challenged our district to look deeper at student data, asking thoughtful questions and ensuring that decisions are made with all students in mind. Your commitment to equitable opportunities and outcomes for every learner has helped strengthen our work and keep student needs at the forefront of our conversations. That commitment was recognized throughout our community when you were named the Fargo Forum's Area Person of the Year in 2022. During your tenure, you served on planning, governmental affairs, negotiations, and CEA committees. You helped guide the district through several significant milestones, including the development and approval of a long-range facility plan, the search for and hiring of a new superintendent, and the approval of a new Horace Mann Elementary School building project. Your leadership, advocacy, and dedication to public education have made a lasting impact on Fargo Public Schools. On behalf of the board, I present you with this recognition of your service to the community and the students of our district. Okay, and the next item is appreciation of the president, which I'm guessing is not for me to do.
Right. I have the honor of doing appreciation to the president. Katie, on behalf of the entire Board of Education, thank you for your dedicated leadership and service as president of the Fargo School Board of Education during the 25-26 school year. Serving as board president requires a significant commitment of time, preparation, and leadership beyond regular board service. As you completed your second consecutive year as board president, your experience and steady leadership provided valuable continuity during a year of significant leadership transition for our district. Throughout the past year, you led our meetings with professionalism, fostered thoughtful discussion among board members, and worked closely with district administration to ensure the board remained focused on its governance responsibilities and commitment to student success. This year brought several important milestones for our district. You helped guide the board through the onboarding of a new superintendent, supported collaborative visioning that will help shape the future of Fargo Public Schools, and began the development of a new strategic plan. Under your leadership, the board also made the significant decision to move forward with a new school on the north side of Fargo and led the process to select a name that will continue to serve generations of students and families. Katie, your leadership has been marked by dedication, collaboration, and a steadfast commitment to public education. We sincerely thank you for your time, energy, and care you have devoted to this role and to the students, staff, and families of Fargo Public Schools. On behalf of the Board of Education, it is my privilege to present you with an updated plaque, got 2 extra numbers in there now, in recognition of your outstanding leadership. And the plaque reads, for achievements on behalf of the students, employees, and citizens of the Fargo Public School Districts through the outstanding leadership as president of the Fargo Board of Education, 24-25 and 25-26. And it's so shiny.
Okay, it is time to move on now to our committee liaison and correspondence reports. And Namal, did you want to share something? Okay, do you want to go first then for our report outs, or do you want to go last so then you can share?
Oh, we can go on the report, it's fine.
Oh, but I mean, you can, yeah, go ahead, yeah. We'll start with you, so please share.
Oh, okay. Well, I just
Your mic. There you go.
I always keep forgetting this. I just wanted to share something with you all first. Good evening. Today is my last meeting on Fargo Board of Education, and I want to speak from my heart. First, to our teacher and staff, I just want to say thank you. You show up every day for our children. You stay late. You encourage. You listen. You change life one student at a time. To our students, you're the reason why we are here. You are smart, you're creative, you're strong. You teach us as much as we teach you. Please keep dreaming big. Your future is bright. To my fellow board member, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for serving, for listening, and for doing your best for our kids. We do not always agree, but we all care deeply about the students and family. I respect anyone who's willing to lead and to make hard decisions. To our administrations and school leader, thank you. You carry a heavy responsibility. You guide our districts. You support our teachers. You help every schools work better for every student or child. To the Fargo communities, thank you for trusting me. Thank you for your vote, your call, your emails, and your ideas. Thank you for believing that public education matters. These schools belong to all of us, and you remind me of that every day. As an immigrant, a parent, a community member, serving on this board has been a great honor for me. Education opened doors in my life. I came to the United States as a kid. I didn't speak English, any English. I started school at 7th grade. It was very hard. I had to learn a new language, a new culture, a new school system, all at the same time. But teacher and staff, people in this community believe in me. Because of that support, I was able to finish my education and earn a master's degree, and later on, elected to the Fargo Board of Education as the first Black woman in this community, just as Katie mentioned it. This journey wasn't easy. There were many challenges, many long days, many moments of doubt, but every step of the way, someone in this community helped lift me up. So when I say thank you, I mean it with my whole heart. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for opening doors for me and for so many other students. I truly appreciate you all. I have learned so much here that every child can succeed when we believe in them. That listening is important as speaking. That strong schools build a strong communities. I may be leaving this board, but I'm not leaving this work. I will still stand with our students. I will still support our teachers. I will still fight for a strong, safety, welcoming school for every child in Fargo. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for the chance to serve. It has been one of the greatest honors of my life, and hopefully I will continue as a state senator of District 41. Thank you. That being said, I think the last time that we were at the planning committee, it was planning committee, and then also too, just as I always been at our community, I was able to educate 59 students for tobacco prevention for them not to smoke. So I just want to say thank you, that's all.
Thank you so much, Namal. We appreciate you. Okay, Jason, do you want to go next?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Allie?
Nothing to report.
Kristen?
Nothing to report.
Nikki?
Ditto, nothing to report.
Okay.
But
Oh.
I would like to say congratulations. I'm thrilled that our board members were reelected, and a warm welcome to Jolene, and much success to you, Namal.
Thank you. Robin?
Thanks, Nikki. Congratulations to you as well.
Yes.
For being elected to the City Commission. That's a great partnership. A lot of requests are coming in to prepare for the January session. One in particular, I met with somebody who's working with BCSU in the education department, very interested in partnering in some AI legislation, which is probably bigger than when we started talking. It's going to be complex. And in fact, I looked at our administrative policies and I didn't see an AI policy. So I'm doing one at work. We're going to be talking about it. I have been openly communicating with Dr. Steiner on that, but really that's what I've been doing. Thank you.
Craig?
Nothing to report.
Melissa?
I also have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. So I will share just a couple things. Our next meeting, July 14th, will be our reorg, and we'll also have our newest board members seated. And then please keep in mind that August 3rd, we have a training session from 3 to 7 p.m., and then make sure that you have marked the NDSBA conference in Bismarck on October 8th and 9th. Our next meeting will be July 14th here in this same space. It is 7:03 p.m., and this meeting is adjourned.